Hello, everyone. We may be making some certain forward-looking statements as part of this presentation. Please refer to the accompanying slides for more information. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are really excited to share with you our roadmap for customer identity for this year. My name is Jiong Liu. I'm the Director of Product Marketing here at Okta, in charge of our customer identity.
And hi, I'm John Gronberg. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management for Customer Identity at Okta.
Customer identity has evolved dramatically in the past few years. It is no longer the case that an organization can put a simple login page with just a username and password in front of an experience and expect to satisfy the needs of their customers. Expectations have never been greater as we have all come to love the seamless omni-channel experiences that the Amazons, Netflixes, and Apples of the world have given to us. It is now an imperative for organizations to respond to these increasingly complex requirements quickly in order to win and retain customer loyalty. I'd like to illustrate this with an example. Now, for this example, we are an airline that has created a digital customer experience that allows customers to browse and purchase flight tickets online. This is a company called Jet Air. Now, if you think about most scenarios, you'll want to allow an unknown user, someone that has never registered with your site and has never been authenticated, to be able to conduct activities such as browsing for these flight tickets. Now, you may want to kick off a relationship with that user as well. So you may prompt them to register an account with them, something lightweight, such as registering email, first name, and last name. And as part of this process, you'll also need to collect their consent. So collecting consent around receiving marketing emails, as well as potentially receiving promotions from your partners. Now, the very next step is that if that person now chooses to purchase that flight ticket, you'll need to complete the profile for this user. You may need to collect additional profile information from them, such as their phone number, and you may need to actually ask them to create a password so that you can authenticate them. Then on your back end, you'll need to do things such as create a frequent flyer number for them. Now, this passenger's experience will actually need to span both the digital and the physical world. We'll provide them a boarding pass, but they will need to interact with other people within our organization at different times that they are at the airport. So they'll need to interact with a counter agent, for example, to get through the process. Now, once the user gets off of the plane, not everything happens according to plan. So baggage may actually get lost. And as we think about the process of retrieving that baggage and sending it back to the customer, we may need to contract that out to other organizations. And we may need to let these people in the external organization, someone like a delivery driver, for example, have access to certain identity information, such as our customer's address, to be able to redeliver that baggage. Additionally, when this particular passenger comes back to the website, we want to offer them a personalized experience. So, for example, we'll want to show them how many miles they may have earned as part of that last process. So we need to ensure that we're pulling in real-time information to offer that up and be as relevant as possible. Additionally, in this exact example, we had a customer who was based in the US, but most organizations operate in many geographies, and we need to offer an experience that is localized to the region that they are in. And if you think about organizations and how they grow over time, they may add additional business units, or they may acquire companies as well. And so they need an identity platform that can span all of the different complexities of their organization. So when you combine all of this together, you can very quickly see that it's no longer just about a simple login page. There are all of these different components around a seamless experience that we need to offer to this passenger. We need to be able to extend that identity out to other people within our organization as well as outside. And we need to think through all the complexities of organizations that operate globally. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how these applications can quickly grow in scope. With that, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague John to take you through some of the key trends and how we plan to address them.
Thanks, Jiong. Before diving in, I want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone out there listening to this recording, whether it's during Octane Live or sometime after that. We're in totally uncharted territory as a world community, but we're all in this together. We're going to get through this and emerge stronger than ever. This time is an opportunity for us to all focus on what matters most. As Jiong mentioned in the safe harbor slide up front, things may and likely will change, but I'm going to do my best to give you a vision of where Okta is headed as we craft the future of digital identity with you. So let's dive into the roadmap. The Jet Air example should give you context on the complexity of identity concerns in a modern consumer application. Now I'd like to take you through some primary business drivers that Okta's Identity Cloud is helping customer-facing organizations to power today. Along the way, I'll talk about some of the recent features we've rolled out and what's coming down the pipe. We'll tie it together at the end by talking about the platform that underpins Okta across all of our different use cases. The drivers we'll cover are increasing customer engagement, driving better security outcomes, safeguarding user privacy, and managing complexity in modern organizations and software. Let's dive in and talk about increasing customer engagement. As a business, IT, or product leader, you probably feel constant pressure to innovate quickly and gain users. At the forefront of your mind should be driving increased engagement with your customers and doing so in a way that helps to build a relationship between your business and your end users. Increasing engagement is about building a connection with your customers. Highly engaged customers buy more, use more, promote more, and stick around longer. Providing high-quality customer experiences is a key component to any engagement strategy. For example, as a new customer encounters your product or service, the first big touch point is registration. Registration is typically seen as a hurdle where many potential customers are lost, but it doesn't have to be that way. The right prompts and content at the right time to the right person can instead solidify that connection. The right content also means that the customer is presented with information in their language and that respects the ideals of their culture. Customers are far more likely to engage with a brand that speaks directly to them. And once you've gotten a customer to engage with your business, you want a brand that they can tie that experience back to. Strong brands are built on trust, and ensuring that each user touchpoint exemplifies your brand will help to build and reinforce that trust relationship. So, what are we building to help you do that? We are continuing to enhance our customization and branding capabilities in our product. In the last 18 months, we GA'd our custom domain and custom HTML and custom error page capabilities. Throughout this year and the next, we're rolling out enhancements to make configuring those features easier. And we'll be starting to POC and beta a theme management capability to enable you to define a core set of brand assets across each touchpoint on the Okta platform, from registration to sign-in to activation emails and factor experiences. And those capabilities will be unlocked with both UIs and APIs to ensure that you can quickly customize an org on the fly. Another big launch that I'm excited about for this year will be our all-new Okta Device Authenticator SDK. This SDK packs in all the new hotness of the Okta Identity Engine and our heavy investments into device security. The Device Authenticator SDK will let you build a custom biometric, time-based OTP, and push notification experience for your users when authenticating into different applications. In the example on the slide, a banking business could build their own branded authenticator app so users don't need to download Okta Verify or Google Authenticator. With the Okta Identity Engine, which we've talked about at length elsewhere, you can even deliver a fully passwordless experience for your users to log into your application. The SDK will be going into beta around Q3 of this year, and we'll be offering SDKs for both iOS and Android. If you're interested, please reach out to us and we'll get you on the list to test this out. Okay, so we've covered some great enhancements to custom branding capabilities on the Okta platform. But we're a global company, and more often our customers are asking for Okta to support additional global languages. We'd like to break the cycle of adding individual languages for individual customers over time. Each business has a slightly different customer base with different language and cultural expectations. Whether it's a customer asking for Quebecois instead of Parisian French, or a request for a totally new language, we want to meet those needs through a bring your own language translation platform, allowing you to upload your own custom strings for use across end user touchpoints. Also, as part of our effort to build theme bundles on the Okta platform, we'll be decoupling strings from branding, so you can more flexibly construct your end user communications. Anyone who has used custom email templates will know that it's rather clunky to manage multiple languages of email templates today. And we're going to streamline that experience. Those capabilities will be available late this year or sometime in 2021. I'm talking about them now as these are really big changes for managing language at Okta. We'd love to get you all engaged in developing the best solutions for your business. There's a lot we're investing in here to deliver a seamless identity experience for your customers. Okay, so we got the visuals figured out. Let's talk about the authentication experience itself and the importance of driving better security outcomes. A lot of folks think that security just means putting MFA and adaptive policies in front of resources, but businesses need to be thinking about driving better security outcomes for themselves and their customers. It's not just slapping MFA on an app. We need to empower end users with tools to keep their data secure at the level they elect to do so. With external consumers, we don't have the luxury of a corporate IT policy to force access restrictions. And if you put too much friction in front of a user, they won't engage with your business, or they won't use the tools that you give them. And we have very little control over the environments in which your technology will be used. And end users may not even have access to the latest hardware or security technologies. That is why the ethos of the Okta Identity Platform is to help drive better security outcomes, not just to provide the highest security options. The first step to delivering better security outcomes is to apply the right security at the right time. On the workforce side, orgs have an average of 88 apps, each of which can have their own app sign-on policy. On the customer identity side, that number isn't necessarily any lower, as large organizations may be building hundreds of customer-facing applications. Every time an admin onboards a new app to Okta, they have to create new policies for each application, depending on the level of protection they want to put up front or put in front of the application. As orgs scale to tens, hundreds, or even thousands of apps, ongoing management, integration of new features, and policy audits can be difficult. We can help you simplify this management. With Okta's Identity Engine, we give admins the ability to link multiple applications to the same policy. This means you can create a policy once and apply it to all of the apps that share the same access requirements. You can create a policy for a group of apps that you consider low friction, like browsing flights, checking an order status, or reading free articles on a news site. And you can create a policy for higher sensitivity apps, like those for buying a plane ticket or initiating a wire transfer at a bank. And for new apps, you can just add them to an existing policy instead of managing the policy separately. This capability will be rolling out to all customers on an opt-in basis, which is what we call EA, in Q3. Now, when we think about consumer apps, a central admin or developer shouldn't always need to be the one defining how users must authenticate. To deliver the best experience, you want to enable your end users to choose how to secure their account. A recent Forrester report found 44% of consumers use a second factor for at least one of their accounts, and 61% did so in response to a previous security breach. Think about an email app. I have a bunch of throwaway email accounts I set up for testing. I don't want to have MFA on those. But for my personal email account, I've been using MFA for a decade. I opted into MFA for that specific account. That's really powerful because it empowers me to set the level of account security that I want. So as part of the Identity Engine, we'll be enabling opt-in MFA, which will only prompt users if they have enrolled in MFA for that account. That will be coming out in Q4. And next year, we'll be launching a campaigns feature so you can encourage users to set up MFA on their own accounts by prompting them periodically. Now, there's still more to this story. I mentioned an example a few slides ago about an app that initiates a wire transfer. Realistically, we don't want an app just for that. We'd build a banking app to do many things, one of which would be the wire transfer. But sign-on policies are rather rigid today. Once you complete a set of authentication requirements, you're granted access to that application. But driving better security outcomes requires more flexibility. We want you to be able to prompt for step-up only when necessary. When a user tries to complete a sensitive action, Okta should allow you to prompt at that point, instead of right when the user logs in. And so we're working on building the capability for you to prompt users when it matters most. We want to enable you to create the right balance between security and friction by configuring policies to request step-up authentication only when a user tries to access a privileged resource, complete a sensitive action, or when their risk profile changes. Also this year, we're revamping our factor management, specifically factor recovery experiences. We've heard from many of our customers that today factor management can be a difficult experience for end users. The recovery experiences on the Okta platform have been limited to a few fallback factors: email, security question, SMS. But we want to open that up and deliver more flexibility so users can use any factor they've enrolled in for their account if they've forgotten their password. This will mean even more ways to reduce help desk calls and customer support costs. And you can define recovery experiences for different groups of users through configurable policies without having to write complex code on the client side. The ability to recover access with any factor should be rolling out to production at the end of this year. Now, there's one more exciting area of investment that I want to talk about in driving better security outcomes, and that's how we're making Okta more extensible. We want you to be able to extend the identity experience at every touch point, so you can integrate third-party services in the flow. There will always be capabilities that aren't available in Okta, some that we just haven't built yet, and others that we don't intend to build. But that shouldn't limit you from achieving the identity experience that is necessary for your business. Whether that's requiring a valid driver's license for registration, authenticating using biometrics, or preventing fake accounts by blocking bots. Okta's identity engine will enable these capabilities to be added onto your Okta implementation. We have many partners we work with today, and we'll be making these integrations even more out of the box and part of the Okta admin experience throughout this year and next. Across new policies, adoption campaigns, new factors, and now partner integrations, we're building a lot of capabilities to help you drive better security outcomes, rather than just put MFA in front of everything. Now, the consumer landscape has fundamentally changed in the past 24 months, where safeguarding user privacy and putting the control of users' data into their own hands is paramount for successful businesses. 2 years ago, organizations saw GDPR looming, but didn't all recognize the formative impact it would have on their businesses. Now, record fines are being levied in the EU, and nearly every state in the US is creating its own flavor of privacy legislation, led by states like California. There are several federal privacy laws working their way through Congress right now. Users expect to be able to see precise details of information that a company collects about them and to get that data deleted if they so choose. They also expect organizations to ask permission up front and in plain language when they intend to store or share any data. Data privacy concerns have completely reshaped social media and advertising, and they're headed for your business next. But Okta is here to help. Navigating the privacy ecosystem is complex. It's not just those cookie consent prompts you see on many websites now. The privacy and compliance ecosystem includes concerns like data mapping, aggregation, attribute mastering, preference management, process automation, just to name a few. There's a lot on this slide, and that's intentional because I want to highlight that there's a lot to this. Those myriad components break down into 3 main categories, all of which can be orchestrated by an identity platform like Okta. There's data processing and storage, aka you can store data about me. There's data sharing, and there's data mapping and deletion. These can be referred to as privacy, preference, and compliance management. Okta sits at the center of these concerns. So in the coming year, we'll be building the upfront portion of the privacy story, capturing users' consent to data processing and storage. This will mean out-of-the-box capabilities to prompt for custom terms and conditions during registration, and retaining that consent along with policy and versioning information. We'll be launching a beta for our consent widget in Q4. But this isn't a story that Okta can tell on its own. Partners will be a key part of the privacy and compliance story, as we work with businesses like DataGrail and OneTrust. The end-to-end flow will look something like this. Okta can capture upfront consent when a user registers or logs in, and can reprompt the user when consent is out of date. Then, a partner can orchestrate the data propagation into downstream systems like Marketo or HubSpot. And when a user requests a download of all data a business has about them, those partners can help to orchestrate that workflow, starting with Okta. There's a great demo of this in Todd's keynote this year. Now, more than ever, safeguarding users' privacy will be critical to the growth and sustainability of your customer-facing business. Okay, for our last business driver, I want to talk about Okta's role in helping to manage the complexity of modern businesses. We want to help you unify heterogeneous identity infrastructures and user stores through our federation and tenant management capabilities. Customer identity isn't just users logging into a single application. It's complex identity ecosystems. Maybe you've got multiple legacy identity stores spread across internal systems, some Oracle, CA SiteMinder, and multiple social providers, all held together with twine, duct tape, and an overworked IT team. Or each of your app teams has gone out and built their own identity stack. Okta helps bring structure to that chaos through capabilities across inbound federation, org management, and universal directory. We want to give you a single pane of glass to reduce your identity debt. I'll take you through a few of the investments that we're making this year and into next to help the world's leading organizations manage the complex identity configurations necessary to operate their businesses. More and more often, customers are managing multiple tenants. They're doing so for various reasons. Some are good reasons. Sometimes it's because Okta's current infrastructure forces them to. Customers today have multiple orgs for things like managing dev, staging, and production environments, or because of connecting separate legacy systems, for data segregation, or even when trying to build B2B SaaS products. Across these different use cases, we'll be enhancing the Okta platform to better serve the multi-org use cases that should have multiple orgs, or reduce the need to have multiple orgs for those that don't. There's a lot on this slide, but it lays out different categories of business that end up needing multi-org setups today, across B2B, B2C, B2E, and multiple environment management for the software development lifecycle. In 2020, we'll be investing in API coverage to enable automated configuration of orgs, which serves all of our customers who currently manage many orgs. In the future, we'll be introducing cross-org admin capabilities as well. For the two categories on the left, B2B and B2C, we want to enable you to move away from the complexity of managing multiple Okta tenants. These use cases should be able to exist in a single tenant. We're deep into the design of our new delegated admin capability, which will help enable you to keep everything in a single org when you have data segregation concerns. Data residency remains as an area where we still need to sort out what it means when it comes to managing multiple data jurisdictions within a single org. But in the next 18 to 24 months, we'll make big strides in automating org management and enabling segregated data access in a single org. We're also building tools to make it easier for you to organize your fragmented identity systems. We already let you connect to other identity providers through SAML, OpenID Connect, and our built-in social authentication connectors. We'll be rolling out sign-in with Apple support soon. And we're also going to give you more options for controlling how users from other identity systems are created in Okta, with account linking and inbound federation hooks that let you execute custom logic when a user logs into an Okta org from another identity provider. These tools will give you much more control when you connect multiple systems to Okta. I've just scratched the surface of what we're building in the federation area this year. So if you want to talk protocols like OAuth 2, OpenID Connect, or SAML, please reach out to me and my team, and there's a whole lot more we can cover. All right, that was quite a lightning dash. We've gone through how Okta can help you increase engagement with your customers, drive better security outcomes, safeguard users' privacy, and also ways you can simplify management of complex identity infrastructures. Now let's talk for a few minutes about the ways the underlying Okta Identity Platform will provide you a flexible, scalable, and extensible solution that you can rely on for your business. The Okta Identity Cloud is a set of products built on top of foundational platform services. Sharing this common foundation enables our products to work seamlessly together. They include the Identity Engine, which powers access through policies, Universal Directory and Directory integrations, our Data Insights platform, the new Workflows offering, the Integration Network, and also our Devices platform. We'll be focusing on the Identity Engine for the next few slides. The Identity Engine powers secure, seamless access through its new policy architecture. It starts with a set of context, which you see on the left of the screen. Context can be information like a user, their group membership, the app they're accessing, the device they're using, or even signals from outside of Okta. The Identity Engine will process the context with low or no code configuration that you define with hooks, workflows, policies, and branding tools, which are on the bottom of the slide. Based on that configuration, the Identity Engine will drive the user through an access experience, prompting them for credentials, profile attributes, and other remediation, which is shown at the top of the slide. Finally, once the user has completed that access journey, the Identity Engine will issue the required tokens or assertions to protected resources listed on the right. The beauty of this platform is that it gives you a set of tools and infrastructure to achieve a secure, tailored, low-friction identity experience. As a refresher, or in case you've missed our previous deep dives on this, the Identity Engine takes users through a series of steps to achieve access. The Identify step is in charge of figuring out all the context, like who the user claims to be, what device they're on, etc. The Authorize step makes sure the user is, in fact, who they claim to be, with the appropriate level of assurance given the context of the transaction. The Enroll step is where the engine can gather additional information, like enrolling new factors for the user or asking for additional attributes. And finally, the Issue step is where we create a token or assertion that provides access to that target resource. Within each of those steps, you get powerful flexibility. Extensible context informs flexible evaluation and rich remediation. Starting with context, the identity engine has broad built-in signal capabilities and is built to be able to ingest external signals for things like risk context, threat intelligence, or other data to enable policy decisions from any partner or technology. Flexible evaluation means we have policies you can set up to orchestrate all of this without writing and deploying code each time, as well as hooks to connect to external services like a custom database. And we'll be launching out-of-the-box integrations for adjacencies to the identity experiences like identity proofing and fraud prevention in the future. Lastly, the engine gives you rich remediation capabilities through an ION API, enabling custom actions and granular configurable assurance definitions. All of this adds up to some of the features we talked about today, as well as much more to come in the future. The app-level policies, flexible account recovery, and integration capabilities we talked about earlier are all powered by the identity engine, and will be rolling out to EA later this year. However, we have a lot of these features available to a select set of customers today as part of the Identity Engine Limited EA. If you want to test out the latest and greatest from Okta, please reach out to me after the session, and we can get you set up with a test tenant. So a flexible platform doesn't get you very far if you don't have the right tools to take advantage of it. This year, we are continuing to invest in our developer tooling and dev community, including new SDKs for language communities like Python and Xamarin, expanded capabilities for existing SDKs, enhanced and simplified theme and customization patterns, and OAuth 2 for all of our management tools, moving away from the embedded API token model that we've had in the past. Our docs have come a long way in the past few years, and we're continuing down that path this year with usability and experience improvements, and scenario-based examples, as well as guides for registration, branding, adaptive MFA, and more. And we'll be working to enhance our developer community and foster more community contribution through featured community projects, contributor getting started guides, and some new ways for developers to engage directly with the Okta team. There's a lot more to come here, so keep an eye on developer.okta.com to see what the latest is. Now that I've taken you through the flexibility of the platform, I'll talk about how we're continuing to scale Okta. We think of three pillars to our secure, always-on architecture. Scalability to make sure we can handle spikes in traffic or large sustained volumes of activity for the world's largest organizations. Reliability to enable a business to be always on across multiple digital identities and properties. And security from our services architecture all the way through to our end user interactions. I'll expand a bit on the scalable part and talk about one of our newer product offerings, Dynamic Scale. We launched this last year as a way to offer our customers Okta's industry-leading reliability at volumes up to 500,000 authentications per minute for both testing and ongoing consumption. We already have multiple successful customers using Dynamic Scale today, including Major League Baseball, Albertsons, the grocery chain, and Cengage, an educational provider. This year, we'll be expanding Dynamic Scale to handle more complex use cases and even higher volumes of authentications to 1 million and beyond. Alongside that, we'll be introducing better rate limiting isolation and visibility, which will be available to customers with or without Dynamic Scale. And now I'd like to hand it back to Jiong to talk a little bit about extensibility on the Okta platform and our upcoming workflows for CIAM offering.
Great. Thank you, John. One of the most important aspects of Okta's platform approach is to provide extensibility throughout the customer journey. Organizations today have adopted a number of best-of-breed technologies to enable things such as agile development, to synchronize marketing efforts, and to protect against modern-day attack vectors. If we go back to our earlier example of Jet Air, identity-related activity actually needs to get propagated throughout Jet Air's technology stack. When a new user registers, for example, they also need to be created in Jet Air's CRM system. As a user logs in, that information needs to be synced with other marketing systems so that personalized content will be based off of the latest information. And as a user updates their consent preferences, that must be passed to Jet Air's privacy solutions. In a lot of ways, identity really sits at the center of a modern technology stack, and we need to enable extensibility throughout. But for many organizations, managing all of this complexity can be very, very difficult, particularly as different business units own different pieces of that technology stack. So this is where our latest announcement that you heard about in the keynote earlier comes in. And this is Okta Workflows. You can think about Okta Workflows as a method for automating identity tasks across applications without having to write code. can think about it as a event that occurs, and then it triggers an if this, then that type of function. We saw an example earlier in the demo today, where if a user gets created, we can assign them into CRM. If that person happens to be a part of our EMEA sales team, we can assign them that territory within CRM. And then we can then create a welcome message within the EMEA sales team Slack channel as well. This is really a powerful, easy to use approach to automating tasks that have traditionally been done in a manual fashion. You can see here on the left, this great drag and drop type of interface that allows organizations to create these workflows without having to write code. Within the offering, there's a number of pre-built connectors out to most of the popular integrations that we see. And so you can just leverage what is already built off the shelf with already deep capabilities within these applications. And then lastly, you're able to write advanced logic. So things like if statements, you can call upon flows upon different events occurring. You can also do nested if statements, just to name a few. So all of the power that we just saw for these workforce scenarios are also really important to power customer identity use cases. And in fact, there are 4 key use cases that we already are working on. The first one is lifecycle management. Just like as we saw in the workforce scenarios, as a user is onboarded with us, and as they change roles or change groups within our organization, we want to be able to push that onto other systems as well. So for example, when we have a brand new customer, such as the Jet Air example, register with our service, we'll want to push that information out to their CRM system and other downstream systems that we have. And additionally, if the Jet Air passenger now flies a lot with us and becomes an elite member of our frequent flyer club, we'll want to change that attribute for them. And then again, want to make sure that we push that information out to our other systems so that they're receiving the right promotional offers. The second critical use case is around registration and login customization. Today, you have login and registration with Okta, and you have the ability to modify that in some ways using hooks. However, oftentimes we see customers that want to conduct some more elaborate workflows. One example that John mentioned earlier is around identity proofing. So as a new person is registering with your site, you may want to ask them to prove that they are in fact who they say they are, perhaps by taking a photo of their driver's license. You can use workflows as a means of reaching out to an external identity proofing vendor to complete that process. The third critical use case is consent and privacy. As we discussed earlier, when you collect that consent from a user, that consent actually needs to be propagated to a number of different locations. Not only our systems, and particularly our marketing automation systems, so that we know what we can and can't email a user, but also if someone agreed to or declined partner promotions, we'll need to pass that on to partner systems as well. And Workflows is a great use case or is a great vehicle for us to do that. Now, the last key use case is actually one of the most powerful ones. And this is really a generic capability to extend Okta without code. So anywhere that an event occurs today where we fire off that event to your system, instead of calling out to your systems to get custom logic, you can build all of that within Workflows. So this is a no-code runtime for hooks. So if you're using hooks today and you no longer want to write that custom code and maintain that logic on your end, you can now move that over into our system. And I'm very pleased to announce that the customer identity workflows beta actually launches today. So you can go to the link here if you'd like to sign up for that beta, or please let us know and we can help you with that as well. So we believe our vision for customer identity will ultimately help our customers build differentiated experiences that, first of all, increase engagement and build loyalty with their end users. Second, lead to better security outcomes, particularly in an environment where customer choice is paramount. Third, puts control of data and privacy back into the hands of your customers. And fourth, manages the sprawling complexity that can occur as organizations grow, all while doing this from an identity platform that is future-proofed, one that is built for flexibility, scalability, and extensibility to enable your business to respond quickly as customer requirements and the industry itself continues to evolve. As we saw with the Jet Era example earlier, that those days of being just a simple login page are gone due to customer expectations. Our goal, as well as our roadmap, has been crafted to ensure our customers are ready to respond to those changing requirements in the way that makes the most sense for their business and ultimately addresses all of the different requirements that we see from stakeholders in customer identity. So that is the roadmap for customer identity. This was mostly a one-year roadmap. So if you're interested in the longer-term vision of Okta and the Okta Identity Cloud, we recommend that you tune in to the keynote this afternoon, led by our Chief Product Officer, Dia Jolly. We also have a number of deep dives into other areas that we only were able to touch upon. Some of the recommended sessions, if you'd like to learn more about those, are as follows. The first, if you'd like to learn more about workflows, as well as the longer-term roadmap for it, we recommend that you go check out that roadmap session. And that one also includes a customer NTT data that's already successfully leveraging this technology. The second key area that we recommend checking out is our security roadmap. There's much more than what we were able to touch upon in our time here today. And lastly, if you'd like to hear directly from a customer about how you can put all of these things together in a real life scenario, we recommend you go check out the AAA session, where they're talking about how they're leveraging Okta, some of our newer capabilities, such as Okta Identity Engine, in order to create these seamless omni-channel experiences for their users. All right, so with that, we will now take questions in the chat channel.